going to talk about SETT. Remember how I said the quality indicators for assistive technology was a framework, a paradigm, a house for you to step into. The SETT framework is the same thing. This is a house to build and to step into. I will say this. I love the call and answer that you guys are doing, so I'm going to do my own. Where are my leaders? And you can say, here I am. Where are my leaders?
Yeah.
Where are my world changers?
Yeah.
Where are my life lovers?
Yeah.
Amen. So glad to be with you. Okay, now I've got the power to do that. The SETT is another framework that was thought up by a very wise woman. Her name is Joy Zabala. She passed away just recently, and when she was getting her doctoral degree, she was intrigued by assistive technology, and she made it her mission to create a framework for how to understand how to implement assistive technology, and she calls it the SETT framework, and it stands for student, environment, tasks, and tools. When Mr. Lucas remade this graphic for me, he didn't know it wasn't, it spelled something. So, why do we want to have a framework? I'll let you read this to yourself, and let me know if it rings true to you. We have a lot of volunteers who help us do our job at the Little Lighthouse, and one of the things that we speak about when they begin, that we remind them of frequently, that we model for them, is that we want our students to do it themselves as best as they can. It doesn't mean that they will do it perfectly, doesn't mean that they will do it right. But we want to give them the opportunity to do it, and that's where we put assistive technology into place or other supports. And it's easy to get lost in the tools, the ideas, the things. I showed you those checklists, and there's literally hundreds and hundreds of things that you could possibly use, and it's easy to get lost. So I'm going to give you a pathway to follow so that you know exactly what tool you want to use. Like I said, SETT stands for student, environment, tasks, and tools. So that I know you're still with me, let's say it together. Student, environment, tasks, and tools. In these words, which one comes last? Which one is first? Which one is most important? Student. I heard different things. You're probably all right. They all work together, honestly. But we're going to start with the student first. And again, there are resources on your flash drive that you're going to get that really go into detail about the kinds of questions that you'll ask yourselves as you do this. So I'll tell you, in Oklahoma, for 10 years I worked as the director of the Oklahoma Assistive Technology Center. And what we would do there is we would go around the state and we would do trainings and teach teachers and therapists and other school personnel how to think about, how to choose and implement assistive technologies in the classroom. And we would oftentimes be called in to do an evaluation for a child in a school. And this is the tool, this is what we would use. I'm going to walk you through a case study when I'm through talking about these different pieces. And I'll walk you through the kinds of questions and things you would write down. You will literally, this tool that I'm teaching you, you take a blank piece of paper and you draw 4 lines on it, 4 columns, and you're going to write student in the first column. And we write down all the things that we know about the student. In the second column, we're going to write all the things we know about the environment. So we'll do a case study before we finish, and you'll help me fill that out. But the kinds of things we think about in the student column. What are some of the areas of concern? If you have someone who's blind, an area of concern would be vision. If you have someone with cerebral palsy, an area of concern would be mobility, positioning, those categories of assistive technology that we referenced earlier. What special needs do they have? Do they have a diagnosis that we understand? Maybe not. Do we have behaviors that we can observe? Always. So here we might not know a diagnosis, but we can observe. The child has trouble sitting in class. The child has trouble walking. The child has lots of behaviors that are negative. So we can identify these special needs or areas of concern. Very important. We don't want to forget this. Very important. What can they do? What are their abilities? We don't just look at what they can't do. We look at what they can do because that will help us know what to do next. So are they, a good listener? Do they have friends? Do they cooperate in the classroom? What are some things that are positive strengths that they have that we can identify? And then some of the expectations or concerns that we have. I've worked with children. I've worked in the field of significant disabilities. The friends that I have made that I've worked with since I began practicing in 1998 have primarily been those who would have the most severe disabilities. And as a teacher, I worked with children who had autism, who couldn't speak, who had trouble moving their bodies, who the only thing that they could do is move their head. I had expectations for them that they would communicate with me. I had expectations that my children that were identified as having a severe cognitive delay, that they would have the opportunity to learn how to read. And I would use assistive technologies to help them. So I have high expectations for everyone that I work with, regardless of their diagnosis or their perceived cognitive levels. I try to walk into my work situations expecting the best, having the highest level of expectation. And this is a mindset. This is something that you train your mind to do. And it's a challenging thing to do when what I understand is that for so long we've understood that people with disabilities, we haven't had that understanding about them, right? So we're changing our mindset here. And then what are they interested in? Do they love to play with balloons? Do they like to splash in water? What are some things that motivate this student? So we spend time in that first column talking about the child or the adult, listing all of these things and getting a picture of who they are. And I encourage you to include the family in this process, because mama and daddy and brother and sister can help answer some of these questions with things that they see at home, which may be different than things that you see at school. So when you can, as a team, we include the families. So the next part of our little word here, E, stands for environment. We all have different environments that we're working in, and some will be simpler than others, and some will be more refined than others. You get what you get, and you don't. This is what I tell my kids. You get what you get, and you don't pitch a fit. Okay, that's another place where you're supposed to laugh, so I'm going to say it again. You get what you get, and you don't pitch a fit. Do you know what pitching a fit means? It means you stomp your feet and cry. I don't like this environment. This environment doesn't have what I need. I don't have the things I need. I'm going to pitch a fit. No, we're not. You get what you get, and you're going to make it work, right? What do we know about the environment? How is it arranged? Do we have chairs? Do we have desks? Do we have pencils? What are some things, resources that we have in our environment? Maybe we don't have resources in our environment and we want to dream about resources that we would love to have in our environment. Because remember, the stairwell, you can't see the end of it. When I first started working at the Little Lighthouse, my coworker Linda and some of my other coworkers that had been there a while had spent time with a big old piece of paper that they drug out of the closet every so often, and they showed me this paper. Had pencil, they wrote in pencil on it because they would frequently erase it, and they put into dream the building that we're in now. And they dreamed for, Linda, was it 7 years, 10 years?
7.
For 7 years, a group of people dreamed of the building that we're now in. That is a multi-million-dollar building that was built with funds that were completely donated to us. We raised the funds and they were donated. We dreamed a dream for 7 years and we changed our reality. Your mindset and how you think about things and remembering that you can't see the end of the stairwell will change things for you. So please, I understand the things I'm speaking about are very different here. I don't pretend to understand what your lives are like. And I know that some of you have very different lives than I do. What supports are available to you, to the staff? How many of you are in a situation where it's me, myself, and I? Raise your hand. Is it just one person? Oh, good. How many of you just have 2 people? How many of you just have 3 people? How many of you have 10 people? Okay, I'm obviously asking the wrong questions. Or else. Oh, ask again. Okay. Supports. I'm talking about the number of people that you have in your organization that are a support to your program. How many of you are an organization of 1 person? How many of you are an organization of 5 people?
If you are in an organization that has 5 people, it can be a school, it can be a CBO, it can be an NGO. An organization that has 10 people, an organization that has 10 people, more than 10. Organization that has 20 people, 20, 30 people, more than 30, 40 people. Okay, I'm doing this because she asked me that. Maybe if she's not clear, I will help elaborate. Sorry for this.
Thank you. I do worry. At lunch yesterday, it was okay, my disability is that I have sensory processing differences. As a child, my clothes had to be super tight, and I also have problems auditorily processing information and sounds and language. So when we were at lunch yesterday with the gentleman from the university, I could hear every sound they were making, but I was just looking at the face and saying, I don't understand what you're saying, but I'm going to smile and eat my curry. Yeah, I like to laugh when they're laughing, and that makes me look like I'm normal. So I understand if you're not understanding what I'm going to move on. Okay, materials. We're talking about the environment. What types of access issues do we have? Do they have trouble getting into the building? The community center that we visited yesterday had a very high step to get to the level where we enter the building. And there were a few people who came in wheelchairs. And I was not outside when they entered. One person is here now. When they entered the building, I don't know if there was another route in, or if they had to lift the chair over that big step. But we might have to think about access. Can we get into the environment? And then also, part of the environment are the intangible things like attitudes and behaviors. Sometimes attitudes and behaviors might be easier to eliminate than access physical barriers, because you can just tell somebody to go home, we don't need you here. That might be easier than building a ramp. The first T stands for task. This is a very important place, and this is what we'll spend the majority of our time on when we do our case study. In order to understand what tools to put in place, we have to understand what tasks our student will be asked to do. Right now, I see many of you doing the task of writing notes. You're writing words that I'm saying. The task is to listen to the teacher and write a note. What tool do you need to complete the task of writing notes? Somebody let me know. A pen. And what? Paper. So the tool for the task of listening to a lecture and writing notes, the tools are pen and paper, right? I forgot to tell you earlier, I was given a Kenyan name of Nancy. Is Stephanie here today?
Woo! Yeah, back here.
Hi, Stephanie. Hi. It's just a thing they do. My Kenyan name is Nancy. Okay, Ms. Jordan, we're ready to open the case study. And this is where you guys are going to get to talk to me, and I can be very stubborn. I'm going to wait for you to answer. And I forgot to set my timer, so I have no idea how long I've been talking or when I need to stop. You'll have to let me know. Okay, so a case study. Jordan, I wonder if you could enlarge the font a little bit so it's easier to read. Down here at the bottom right, there's a slider. Yeah, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. Keep on going. Okay, there you go. Is that better? Can you guys see that better? Okay, so our case study. We're going to talk about a child who's 8 years old, and her name is Rosemary. Do I have Rosemary here? Okay. And Rosemary has a diagnosis of cerebral palsy. I'm making an assumption here that everyone understands kind of what cerebral palsy looks like and might show up like. So, is there anyone that, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but would it be helpful for me to go into more detail about what a diagnosis of cerebral palsy means? Okay. So this child is unable to use her legs to walk, but if she has a table in front of her or someone holding her waist, she can stand. Okay? She just can't make her legs coordinate to walk, but with a little support at her waist, she can stand. She's able to sit up by herself as long as she has something to lean against, like sitting on her mother's lap and leaning against her mother's chest. This child, even though her body is very different and does not move and operate the way that our bodies do, her brain is very, very good. So she understands everything that's said to her, and she attempts to use her mouth to speak. Her mother is able to understand most of what she says, but unfamiliar listeners, so someone who maybe just meets her for the first time, might get about 60% of what she says. So as far as academic skills, she's 8 years old and she can recite her ABCs. If you show her a letter, she can say what the letter is. She can identify it. If you give her 3 letters and say, can you find the letter C, she can tap it with her hand so she can identify letters. And she can count and identify numbers in the same way up to 50. She can identify her name. So if you hold up 3 cards with different names printed on it, she can find the one that says her name. And she can recite the letters of her name and spell it out. She can identify a few sight words like her name, like mom, dad, a few sight words. She's able to use her hands to feed herself, things like finger food. My new favorite food, ugali. Did I say that right? Yeah, it's my new favorite food, especially with that green vegetable stuff that comes with it. What is that called? I've literally eaten it with every meal since I got here. She can drink from a cup, but she can't hold the cup. So somebody holds the cup to her mouth and she can drink from an open cup. And she can hold some things in her hands, especially if they're about as big around as this microphone, like a banana. She can hold it, and while she's holding it, she can wave her hands around. Okay? Let's see what's going down there. Oop. Oh, and as far as potty training, she understands when her body needs to have a trip to the bathroom. So when she needs to go to the bathroom, and she can alert people around her to know that she needs to go to the bathroom, so she doesn't have to wear diapers. Okay, so that's an example of what you might generate in a meeting of your team as you talk about a child named Rosemary that's in your classroom that needs some help. Those are some of the things that we would identify that we talked about in the earlier slide that we would talk about for students. Okay, so if you can scroll down a little bit, Jordan. And yeah, keep going. Keep going. It's kind of like when you watch a cooking show and they mix it all up and then they walk to the oven and they take out the completed food and they show you that thing. So we're going to that route. I've completed the environment for you. So Rosemary is fortunate enough to attend a local school with her 2 siblings. Her mama carries her to school because she can't walk. Her teacher is willing, so she has a teacher who's willing to have her in the classroom, even though she's very different than the other children in the classroom. And for the most part, the other children are either kind to her or ignore her. However, neither the teacher or the other students seem to know how to include her in classroom activities because of her disabilities. So the willingness is there, but the knowledge is not, right? On most days, there is a second adult in the classroom to assist the teacher. There are about 55 children in the classroom, and Rosemary is very excited to be in school. I will say that going to school is a very exciting thing, and it broke my heart when I met a large number of children yesterday who cried, and their parents cried because they could not go to school. And so I understand that children get very excited to be able to go to school. So in the classroom, Rosemary has a cushion on the floor, and they have the cushion by a wall so she can lean up against the wall because the chairs are too big for her. And so she can't sit at a regular classroom desk. Oh, okay, here we go. So Jordan, we're going to just go up to the top right here. And this is where I need your help. I hope that I've described a case study that might be somewhat familiar to some of the things that you've experienced in your schools or with your children. So I would like for you to stand up and let me know an example of a task that might be done in a school like this. And this is where I can be very stubborn and I will wait until somebody does this. So what types of tasks would a child do in a classroom like this who's 8 years old? Oh, thank you for clarifying. The question is, do we say a task for the teachers or a task for the students? So this would be an expected task that a student might do, such as listen to a lecture and take notes, okay? So you guys are the students, so we're in the body and mind of a student in a classroom. So what kinds of tasks would a student be expected to do in a classroom like this? I can't hear. So interact with fellow students? Perfect. Jordan, would you write that? Yes. In a classroom like this, we would expect social and emotional development to occur, and that happens when children interact with each other. Right? Well, there's other types of tasks. Thank you so much. What other types of tasks would we do in a classroom like this? Yes? And you may have to speak really loudly. Be part of role play. So pretend play, role play. Yeah. Perfect. What other types of tasks? And these can be social and emotional tasks or academic tasks. I see a hand raised here. Yes, sir? Sharing materials. Turn taking. Okay. And he said participate in academic activities. I'd like to ask you a question. Can you give me an example of at least one type of academic activity? Yes. Coloring? Perfect. Coloring? Yes. Thank you. How about some more? Another one? Yes? Listening and taking notes. Yes? We're getting on a roll here. Yes, ma'am. Okay, say that one more time. Walk. Okay, so I'll just paraphrase this because we want our children to move in the classroom from one spot to another, one activity to another. And the example was walk using chairs or walls, but the basic task would be to move from one spot to another in the classroom. Yes. How about just about maybe 2 or 3 more tasks? Yes, ma'am. Okay, I heard sorting and grouping of items with your hands. Did I get that? Okay, so we're developing fine motor skills as well as other skills. Yes. Artwork. So that could be coloring or painting or playing with clay. Yes? Say it again. Observation. Observe. Yes, be an observer in the classroom. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Cleaning the, you guys have your kids clean the classroom? Jordan, you got to take notes on that one. Wait, yeah, we're going to teach our kids to do that one. We do. We have them take their stuff to the sink. Do you have them like mop the floor? Take out the trash? Dust? Clean the windows? Oh my gosh. Life change. Put it down, Jordan. Clean the classroom. Okay, these are great. Perfect. Perfect. Let's move to the next spot. Now this is where we begin to dream. There are no wrong answers. Oh, is there one more? Oh, you're talking to your friend. Okay, no. Oh, yes, sir. There's an issue. Give this man an A. He has an issue. Let me tell you what his issue is. This kid has cerebral palsy. How's she going to move around the classroom? That's the problem, right? Do you have an answer? Student card, okay? Hold on. No, come here. No, come here. Come up here. Where's my spray bottle? Come here. Would you teach?
I'm saying we've been told
the part of students, the child is able to walk when someone holds her waist. So that is where we include the other children that are in the classroom and help her move around in the classroom.
Brainstorm, dream. Perfect. Can you think of anything else? Let's go back to that task again. We would be a little more organized. I might have a line here. You can go back down. I might have, as I'm drawing this out, I might write this and then leave a space and like draw a line here. And then I can go tool for that task. Okay? Just visually organize it a little better. So move around the classroom. We would come over here and just pretend, because we're going to wrap up soon, but just pretend we have it right next to the task. We would say position chairs. Maybe when it's time to move from one place to another, we get some friends to take their chairs and make a path. And this child can walk the path from one place to another by holding onto the back of a chair, with an adult behind her to hold her waist, or maybe a friend who's strong that can kind of hold her waist, provide some support. Any other thoughts about how we can help a child move around the classroom? By using a walker. Just because you don't have this tool doesn't mean you can't dream about it, okay? So even though you may not have access to a walker right now, or access to a wheelchair right now, go ahead and dream it. What you see in your mind becomes a reality in your world. Eventually. It might take 7 years. Okay? What other things can we use to help this child move around the classroom? Any other ideas? Do you have an idea?
The first statement might do like the friend might be holding her, making her walk. She might use also the chair the way to sit there. So
Yes, and I'll just say, she said we might also have friends who can hold her hands or give her support on her waist and help her walk. Maybe they can put their hands around her and help her walk from one place to the other. A person can be a tool. Ideally, we don't want people to have to rely on someone for such an important skill as mobility. My friend over here might prefer to have his own way to get from one place to another eventually. So, but yes, perfect. How are we doing with time? Mr. Belden? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? 7 minutes, okay. Which of these tasks in the next few minutes would you like to talk about next and brainstorm and dream about? Sorry, I heard somebody. Color? What did you say? Pattern?
Say it again.
I don't understand a word you're saying. Did you tell me? What did they say? Oh, repeat? Sorry. You don't understand a word I'm saying. I'm so sorry. I'm trying. Someone in this room pick a task for us to think about and dream about. Coloring. Coloring. I heard coloring. Can we do coloring? Okay. Coloring. Okay. She can hold a banana, right? And she can do this. So, can you think of anything? I know you're using your hands to interpret. But can you pick up that piece of paper down there, right by your foot? Yes, sir. Any one of them, doesn't matter. Thank you. I'm just going to put it right here and pretend it's a desk. If that's a coloring page, and I can do this, do you suppose this is going to happen? Yeah, right? Okay, I'm going to give you an answer because I'm so excited to have an opportunity to show this high piece of technology. This is a file folder that I've taped with duct tape, and it has a piece of rubber shelf liner on the back. This might be a little harder to find, but you know Post-it notes? You know what a Post-it note is? Has that little sticky part to it. This is a piece of poster board that we can buy that has, it's all Post-it note sticky. So I put my hand on it and it's sticky. I can put my paper on it. The rubber shelf liner will keep it from moving. And now when I color, it's not moving. You could get a clipboard and put shelf liner on the back of the clipboard so it doesn't skid across the table. Clamp the paper under the clipboard to keep it from moving. I had earlier the milk jug handle with the marker in it. It's a perfect tool to stick the hand in, go like that. I was supposed to let you do this. Any other thoughts about coloring? Tools that you might think would be helpful for someone who has trouble coloring and keeping their paper stable. Yes. So, perfect. So a safety pin or like a pin you would use in sewing and pinning the paper to the table to keep it from moving, that's beautiful. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, so the photo example of the chopping board with the nail sticking out of it so you could stab a tomato on it. You could do something similar, get a board and maybe put little kid, she's 8 years old and got nails in near her eyeball. You have to be careful, but something like that so that you can place the paper on it and keep it from moving. Good idea. Dreaming time. Yes, ma'am. Yes, so another low-tech idea would be a person sits there with a child and hosts the paper study. And that could be an adult or another peer in the classroom that could help. Do you have, okay, so when you're washing dishes and you have a sponge that's on a tube that you can put dishwashing detergent in the thing, and then you mash. Does anybody have one of those? You know what I'm talking about? And it's got the soap that comes out from the inside to the sponge. Is that familiar? Yeah. What if you put paint in that instead of soap? And then as you mash it, the paint comes out of the sponge and they can tap the paper with their paint. Any other ideas? And we'll wrap it up here because I think you get the picture, right? So this is a framework, the SETT framework. I'm giving you the lumber and the canvas roof and the chairs and the tables so you can go back to your home and build a structure, build an understanding of how to help a child who has trouble doing things in the classroom. The tool for you as professionals to know is how to use the SETT framework to help you think through the challenges that you have doing tasks in the classroom. I hope I've explained this in a way that is easy to understand and that something you think you can do in your place. So I'm going to ask a question. You can use your sticks or raise your hand. Is this a tool that you can use with your students, the SETT framework? Yes? Okay. I probably have 2 minutes left, if that. Are there any questions or things that feedback you have about this process? And God bless you. Yes, ma'am.
Please come and talk. Oh. And just say what you just said.
Okay, I'm saying, that was asking if the task is for basically the students or the teachers. Because for the student to concentrate in class, the other normal students that are blind and normal, children with no special needs, they also need to understand that this particular classmate of mine also is a student with special needs and will need my support. Because if we do not do that, helping them might be a challenge. Yeah. So that was on my input on environment.
I think that's a wonderful place to end, and a perfect thing to be reminded of. I will be speaking again tomorrow, but I want you to know how honored, truly honored I am to be here with you, and to be in this room full of brilliant minds, and brave leaders, and hard workers. I have a lot of respect for each and every one of you, and thank you for your time today.